Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Marquette Township Board. Today is Tuesday, December 7th, 2021, and it's 6:30 p.m. We're going to say the pledge if you'd like to join us. If you'd like. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Randy.
Okay, Trustee LaRue.
Here.
Trustee Winslow.
Present.
Trustee Everson.
Here.
Trustee Marks.
Present.
Treasurer Johnson.
Here.
Clerk Rattari is here, and Supervisor Durant.
Here.
Staff present is Manager Kangas, our attorney Roger Zappa. On Zoom is Superintendent of Public Works Lenny Bodinas, and committee members present is we have Mr. Bronken from our Library Advisory Committee.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any emails from the public?
I have gotten none.
Okay. Skips 2 and 3 then.
Well, you gotta see if any of them.
Oh, I'm not used to having people, thank you. If anybody would like to address the board before we start our meeting, please feel free to come up to the podium. Name and address? No? Okay, that's fine too. First, we're gonna have a couple public hearings. The first one is on the budget for the fiscal year 2022. So I will open the public hearing at 6:32 p.m. And this is an opportunity for the public to comment on the budget, to ask questions. So if anybody has anything pertaining to the 2022 budget, you can come up to the podium.
3 times,
Okay.
you can say it.
Yeah, this isn't my first rodeo. Second call for anybody with comments on the fiscal year 2022 budget. And third time for the fiscal 2022 budget. Okay, we'll close the public hearing at 6:32 p.m. Next up is the fiscal year 2022 Truth in Taxation hearing for the tax levy. If there's anybody who'd like to address the board for that. Okay, second time for the Truth in Taxation hearing on the tax levy for the fiscal year 2022 for the township. And third time for the fiscal year 2022 Truth in Taxation hearing for the tax levy of the township. Okay, so we close that at 6:33 p.m. All right, tonight's consent agenda consists of approval of the work session minutes of October 28th, 2021, work session and regular meeting minutes of November 16th, 2021, and special meeting minutes of November 30th, 2021. We also have bills payable in the amount of $238,509.88. And we will consider the 2022 bills payable approval list, which means these are bills that are due probably in between our board meetings twice a month. So the accountant needs approval to pay these bills, and they are listed in the packet, so you know exactly who they are. We have no received committee or other reports. We have correspondence from Charter Communications telling us that we have a franchise fee, and maybe we can use that for our speaker system in here and our recording system next year. We also have the chairman's report from the Marquette County Solid Waste Management Authority from November of this year. And I did include the University of Michigan close-up report for November. The statistics are pretty interesting that public officials locally, or at the local level, not just Marquette, statewide and federal, are disgusted with how the country's being run. They do a poll. I get a survey whenever they have them. It's not always once a month. And ask my opinions on how their questions affect the township and multiple municipalities and different, mayors, city mayors, township supervisors, village people, and they all report, and the statistics are in there. There are links in case you need to get some more information. We also have the Peter White Public Library regular board meeting minutes of November 16th. They are starting strategic planning, if you noticed in there, and Paul has agreed that he's going to be on the committee. They did a subcommittee to talk strategic planning, so we'll be getting information on that. I just wanted to let you know. We have the draft minutes from January 17th. That's got to be November. That's probably a typo.
11/17.
11/17.
11/17 from the Marquette County Solid Waste Management Authority. And State of Michigan Public Service Commission notice of hearing for the electric customers of Upper Peninsula Power Company, case number U-21058. No wonder their rates are so high. They spend all their time legislating things. We also have a budget amendment 2021-10, and we'll need a roll call for the consent agenda approval.
So move to accept the consent agenda.
Support.
Okay?
Okay, so the budget amendment to the board is 2021-10, and this will be one of the last ones of the year, possibly one more next meeting, but we're getting to the end of our fiscal year, so the next budget amendment will probably be rather lengthy to tie everything up before the end of the year, so. But this budget amendment is for authorization is requested to increase revenue in the water fund. Sales have been averaging over 20% over budget. Offsetting that is a decrease in interest income. Also requested are minor increases in various departments, mainly due to repair and maintenance items and services. The Northwoods pumping station increase reflects an increase in electricity cost tied to the tank painting project.
Okay.
So roll call vote for the consent agenda is Treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
Trustee Marks,
Yes.
Trustee LaRue,
Yes.
Trustee Winslow,
Yes.
Trustee Everson,
Yes.
Clerk Rattari is yes, and Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. We just need approval of the remainder of the agenda unless anybody has anything to change.
So moved.
Or
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, I'm not aware of any conflicts of interest with this agenda. And next up, we have our library report.
Good evening. Just a few small things to report. The library is now providing a notary service, so people can get that, get things signed there. There wasn't a special presentation this month. Marty Acketts is going to delay it till January, so we'll have it then. But there was a lot of discussion about censorship at this meeting. And recently in school libraries especially, there's been a lot of people objecting to books and asking that they be removed from the shelves. That's always been the case, but it's grown exponentially in the last year or so. The American Library Association's always been sort of in the forefront, a strong voice for promoting intellectual freedom and resisting efforts to censor materials within the libraries. Andrea said, every library has something in it that any person would find personally objectionable. It's just the way it is. But they don't want to remove those items. They just want people not to take them out if they find them objectionable. So, recently, as a part of their ongoing policy reviews and procedure reviews, they went through their policy on removal of materials and actually the placement of materials as well. Essentially, any person can object to something that's in the library. And they have a form that's called the Request for Reconsideration of Library Materials form that they are asked to fill out if that's the case. They have to explain in some detail what's objectionable to them. That usually stops people dead right there because they don't want to bother with that. They just want to complain. So, however, if they do want to, then they just fill out what it is that they find objectionable. It goes to the director of the library. She makes a decision. They can then appeal that decision. If that's the case, it goes to the Board of Trustees, and they're the final word. All of the decisions that the director makes go to the board, so they know what has happened there, so.
Do they have to put their name
Oh,
on
yeah.
the form? Okay.
Yeah. Most libraries have a very similar policy to the one that Peter White has. And so what's happening now is there are groups that are actively finding things, researching those books, and coming up with the wording that can be put into that blank or what's objectionable. So people can then just copy that in without actually reading the book or whatever it is. So Andrea hasn't seen that yet, but she says she's heard about it happening in other places, so she's expecting it could happen here as well. She's hoping it won't, but thinking it might. Any questions on that before I move on? Yeah,
Oh, is there very many objectable books that you know of? Or
I
people
think it's a
come-
library like any other library, so it's, if people find things objectionable in most libraries, they probably find them objectionable in ours as well. Yeah, the same books are there. Yeah.
Maybe I was watching too much TV.
Moving on, a committee, as you mentioned before, to get ready for the strategic plan to cover the years 2023 through 2027 is being formed. This is not the committee that's going to write the strategic plan. This is the committee that's going to determine how that strategic plan is going to be written, whether a consultant comes in or how they're going to do it. And on that committee, we have some of the staff members, two of the Board of Trustees from the Peter White Public Library, and two members of the Township Advisory Committee, and Paul Marin is one of them. So you guys are plugged in very well for that. And I'm sure he'll be reporting on what that is. If you have any ideas about how a strategic plan should be done, start thinking about that. And
We just did ours.
yes, we have all
Yeah.
kinds of ideas then, I'm sure.
Yep.
There was a final thing, there was a question from somebody about what's happening with the homeless people that used to always pack into the library when the weather got cold because there was no place else to go. And Andrea reported that since they have a permanent room at the inn now, that problem has really, really diminished. So they're very happy with that. So that's my report. Any questions?
Any more questions? Dan?
I just had a question on the notary. Is that just like Monday through Friday, regular business hours, or?
I think so, yeah. It's one person that has got that. And so whenever she's in, I assume it would be mostly business hours, yes.
Thank you. Good to
Is there
know.
a charge?
No, free. Yeah, there are apparently, most people can go to their bank, but there are people that don't have that service, so this is good for them. And it's starting to take off.
Anything else?
I'd like to just thank them for your report, keeping us up to date, so I appreciate that.
No
Yeah,
problem.
we are so unfortunate to have two to report. That's great that both of you kind of work
Yeah,
together.
yes, lightens the load too on these
Yeah,
areas.
it does. Good. Thank you
you.
so much. Appreciate you.
A sidebar to that, Lynn, myself and Lois are notaries here at the township also.
I am too.
And, yeah, you are too, so.
Okay, community linkage. Who has something to share? Are you hearing from the public? Are you getting phone calls? Run into people at the stores? Anything? Go ahead, Pete.
At our senior meeting the other day, we were just talking, and all of a sudden, one of the comments that came up was street lighting, so I just wanted to tell everybody.
Sure. What did you pay him to say that?
I wrote it down for him. But
Here are the questions you
It
can
was kind
ask.
of funny because we weren't even talking township, but they were just talking in general, and all of a sudden, one guy said, yeah, I was out there walking. He said, it's pretty darn dark out there. I said, we're working on it, so.
Good. Good deal. I have a few things to share. I talked to, I was emailing Lieutenant Scholander from UPSAT and tried to figure out when he could give us regular reports. So their annual report comes out in February. So I said, well, how about if you come to the board on March and then sometime the end of the year, just to kind of catch us up. So we decided on March and October, because the board had said that we wanted to kind of talk to people more, different groups and individuals. So he will do that. And if something comes up, he said he'll let us know if he needs to come sooner or later. And with that, I just want to share, I don't know if you can see this, John. On unfortunately, WLUC-TV says that basically, based on population, Marquette County has the highest in the state for meth, which is not good. So Upset is earning their keep. Our tree lighting was a success. We had people and people and people and more people. Nobody mingled too much, I don't think, because they were so cold. They were kind of standing in their one spot, but I heard a couple good things about it. I'm sure you guys did too. Marquette County Solid Waste Management did have an employee who was injured with an insulin pen working on the line. So I just want to remind everybody that only the plastic and newspaper and junk mail type things need to go in there in cans, tin cans. I did tell Brad that I would mention that, and they would really appreciate, not so much them, but North Country would really appreciate if you don't put your blue tote out if it's not full. Wait until it's full, because it's more of an effort for them to repeatedly do half full or third or half or quarter full totes. If it's not, it's so much that it's not worth their while to dump it. So they would really rather have a full one. So if everybody could wait, they are kind of talking about maybe doing recycling every 2 weeks instead, so that people can save up, and then maybe regular trash on the opposite week or something. So when we get more information, we'll know. But I just wanted to mention what you're supposed to put in there. And if anybody's got any questions, you can call the office. Most of us know, or calls. You can actually just type in on your computer, Recycle 906. It's got to be the easiest website I've ever seen. And it'll tell you exactly what to do and not to do, what recycles and what doesn't. They did have, Marquette Township has a 93% increase in recycling. So, woohoo, we're doing good. They were pretty excited. They mentioned it in their meeting if you read it in the minutes. And plastics and fiber are selling like hotcakes. So they're making some money on those two items. They are also going to increase their scale hours. They're opening earlier at 6:30 after the first of the year, 6:30 to 4. So if you want to go directly and drop something off, the scale will be open. I had to share because I'm always talking about the tax tribunal. There was a case in Flat Rock, Michigan, which is about 25 miles south of Detroit, 10,000 people. And the mayor there went to the tax tribunal and said that their $10 million brand new building, 4 months old, was only worth $7 million. And they wanted the taxable value to be $3.8 million. And that was the first year. 2017, the value, because they were open and going, was $16 million assessed, and they were claiming it should only have a taxable value of 4.6. So believe it or not, if this board remembers, Victoria Enyard is one of the judges, and the judge that heard this case, and we actually, and 17 other communities, I guess, in the county wrote a letter saying that Victoria Enyart should not be reappointed. And Senator McBroom spent about an hour saying the same thing. So I don't know if we intimidated or what, but she voted for Flat Rock and not Meyer. So it can be appealed, but this is the first time that I know of that the tribunal voted for the community. So that's exciting. Stay tuned for,
Save them a lot of
What'll
money,
happen?
real
Oh.
quick.
yeah. And that's, oh, one more thing I wanted to read because it's somebody you know. It's just one paragraph. Last spring, Meridian Charter Township in Ingham County set up a hotline, ringing directly to manager Frank Walsh, his cell phone. You remember Frank? He helped us through our managing
Yes.
ordeal. And that allowed both residents and businesses to call with questions on his cell phone or if they needed assistance. So don't worry about this. A critical lifeline for some residents and others during a time of fear and uncertainty, the hotline received hundreds of calls. This is July of this year. particularly early in the pandemic. It also served as a method of connecting residents who were unable to leave their homes with township services and with area businesses that offered home delivery for food, medication, and other essentials. While those phone calls have now slowed to a trickle, the hotline provided invaluable for the township, its residents and the business community. We developed a very close relationship with our business community, said Walsh, who calls establishing the hotline and the service it provided the proudest time in my career. Through our hotline service, I now know the owners of a lot more businesses because of it. That was in the Township Focus, because he's one of the managers. So I just thought that was kind of fun to share with you. So that's all I have. All right, policy discussion, consideration and development. First up is consider resolution for abandonment of the south half of Ryan's Alley in Trowbridge Park Subdivision Number 8, Platte. All right. Who wants to start? Do you want to explain it, Roger, or?
Yeah, actually, the
Refer to the manager?
agenda item should be a resolution to vacate, and that's what your resolution in the packet is, because road commissions abandoned and townships vacate,
Okay,
essentially.
so abandoned should be changed to vacant. And-
But in any event, the resolution is correct. This is a fairly straightforward request that you had beforehand, but then the road commission indicated that they wished to be involved in it, so they are hearing the petition to abandon the short little strip of alley that is between US 41 and non-existent Orchard Street. It's an unimproved, it's on paper, on the plat, but it's not improved. The north half of that same alley was abandoned and vacated years prior, the portion between Orchard and Werner. The resolution differs slightly from the last one you had, because it's now contingent upon the road commission also following through and abandoning. And it provides that essentially if the road commission does not follow through at their December 20 meeting and complete the abandonment process, then this resolution would become null and void. It's not anticipated that the road commission will not abandon, but of course I have no crystal ball, nor does anyone else. And then finally, there was some input from the Michigan Department of Transportation that the right-of-way is 200 feet wide in that area, and the area on the plat is less than that, and they wanted it clarified that under no circumstance would there be any vacating or abandoning of an existing portion of the right-of-way that currently exists for MDOT. And that was never the intent of anyone anyway, but we added a paragraph in the proposed resolution. That's number 2, that indicates that nothing herein shall be construed to vacate or discontinue any portion of the above described alley which may be located within the US 41 right-of-way lying a distance of 100 feet north of the center line of Highway US 41. The concern was that there could potentially be a misunderstanding and possibly a jog in the right-of-way if the resolution and the abandonment process was misconstrued. I really think that was a long shot, because the proposed resolution in any event indicated that it was strictly to the north right-of-way of Highway US 41 in any event, but that makes it abundantly clear so there can be no confusion.
Okay, and does this go to the road commission, and,
No.
or does it go directly to the state when the road commission
This will be
executes?
held until the road commission takes action on December 20.
And then it goes to them?
Then it goes to the Register of Deeds office for
County
recording.
first, okay.
And then it goes to the LARA department in Lansing,
Licensing and regulation?
yes.
Okay. Any questions, John?
I think what we're being asked to do is pass the prepared resolution. So I'll so move to do that. To abandon of the
Vacate.
south half of
Vacate.
Ryan's
Allen,
You'll have to say vacate.
Vacated.
vacate.
He just said that, okay, but otherwise, okay. Do we have a support?
Support.
Do we need to do a roll call on this?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Randy.
Okay, roll call vote is trustee Marks,
Yes?
trustee Everson,
Yes.
trustee LaRue,
Yes.
trustee Winslow,
Yes.
treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
clerk Rattari is yes, and supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Get, guessing.
Oh, there is, right here.
Yeah.
No, that's just for the notary.
Nope, that's for, I signed that.
Yeah, but it says it's clerk and supervisor signs.
The clerk and
additional
supervisor
documents.
sign additional
okay,
documents
sorry.
if they are needed. The resolution is just the official action of the board that
Okay.
gets certified by the clerk.
Okay, we're good on that. All right, next up, consider adoption of the fiscal year 2022 budget. Mr. Kangas.
Well, I'm surprised that with the room full of folks we had here tonight, we didn't have a single comment during the public hearing. I'm kidding. This has been a pretty well vetted budget. It's, I would say, fairly status quo with the exception of some expenses returning to pre-pandemic levels. We had reduced them during COVID years because training and conferences weren't occurring in person, so a lot of those were much more affordable in virtual situations. The collective bargaining agreements have neither have been settled yet, so we don't know where that's going to end up. But we have numbers in there that are placeholders. And then the CIP, of course, was finalized late last week, so we're going to be coming back to you with any of those expenditures when it's time regardless. Some of them aren't reflected in the budget because they would be purchased out of fixed asset accounts in our reserves, but the majority of them will be purchased through replacement and improvement funds, especially in the public works accounts. So I think in general, this should be a pretty safe budget with plenty of room for discussion as we go through the year. This is your roadmap, and when we decide to take a turn from what you hopefully will adopt tonight, we do a budget amendment, just like you did earlier. So I appreciate all of your input during the preparation process through all of our work sessions, and I'm hoping next year's process will even be better.
Questions for the manager?
No. I think we worked hard at it, but I think we came up with a fairly good budget to start the year with. It's like our manager said, it's a starting point. We have no idea what's gonna happen during the year, and that we're gonna make amendments as we go, and that, so.
One last thing regarding CIP, I'm sorry, Clerk Rattari. I will reiterate what I promised you at prior meetings when it comes to those CIP expenditures. You will see them again before any money is spent, because you ultimately have the final say in whether or not we actually make the purchase or move forward with the project. So I just wanted to make that clear.
And Lenny's listening too, so he'll remind you, just in case.
He knows
Yeah.
very clearly what my expectation is on CIP expenditures, and I know Chief Shanahan's right there also. They're the other group that has a couple of big expenditures that are certainly on the radar and hopefully will happen. It's all a matter of what funds are used for them, right? I'd love to see some of these infrastructure and ARPA funds put to good use, whether it's specifically on those big purchases or other projects we haven't really fully vetted yet, so.
Lenny, did you want to comment on the budget at all, for the public or the board's perspective? I mean, you were at those meetings, but.
No, I want to reiterate that, I believe it's a good budget, and kind of, go back to what John said, we're going to try to keep everybody up to date and informed on some of these CIP projects, and, everybody will know exactly what's going on right from the very beginning. there won't be any surprises.
Good deal. Randy?
Yeah, so again, I echo everyone's comments about the budget, Treasurer Johnson's comment. We have a balanced budget. The only increase that you're gonna see is in the fee schedule, and it's $1 for your garbage a month.
Support.
So, with all the rest of the municipalities around us raising water and sewer rates by multiple percentages, we have done a good job, and there's no rate increases for water, sewer this year.
Or any of the fees that
Yeah,
we did.
any of the fees, the only, in a lot of the garbage fee increase is not from us, it's from the landfill. And we had to go with that $1 to cover those costs, and we had some increased costs due to the recycling too, but we're gonna try to address those and moving forward and keep those costs under control, so. I commend the board for, you know, getting a balanced budget with very little increase in the rate, so.
We're pretty conservative.
So I'll make a motion that we accept the budget.
Okay.
I'll second it.
John thought that you made the motion,
But he
Randy.
I did not.
Did not.
Okay, so we have a motion and
And
second.
this doesn't need to be roll call.
Right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next up is to consider adoption of the fiscal year 2021 tax levies.
As you do every year, these are generally approved in September when you adopt the State Treasury Form L4029, which you did. That had an operating millage of 4.8078, a roads millage of 1.4688, fire equipment of 0.588, police of 0.3920, a library millage of 0.888, Fire Act 33, which is special assessment of 2.8, so you don't see the Headley rollback on that because it's a special assessment. And then the rec millage of 0.498. This is your formal adoption of those millage rates for 2021.
I'll move to adopt the fiscal year 2021 tax levies.
Support.
Motion and support. Any questions, comments? I'm gonna put together an explanation of this a little bit for the next meeting, so people can kind of get what Headley and rollbacks and all that stuff is about, just to educate everybody a little bit. Because if you have an operating millage of 5 mills and you are only charging 4.8078, that doesn't make sense, you know. So I want to go through it a little bit briefly with you next meeting. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Consider fiscal year 2022 budget resolution and Township General Appropriations Act. John?
My recommendation is to approve it as presented based on all of the action you've taken this evening and the efforts up to this point.
Any comments, questions?
The only comment I have, if you look at the documentation, you go back, you look at the millage, and then look at the estimated revenue. So that's what we're beginning with. We're hoping it stays in that area.
Because it's estimated.
Yeah.
It is estimated, and we estimated it more conservatively this year than last year, simply because of the dark store tax tribunal cases. And if you go back to the budget, you'll see that our original general operating revenue that we estimated for the current fiscal year is actually coming in lower than we had approved in the budget because we didn't estimate that conservatively. So,
We didn't think different people would go to the tribunal, since the big box stores are pretty much done.
yeah, it just seems like it's a never-ending stream at this point.
I'll make a motion, we approve the fiscal year 2022 budget resolution and Township General Appropriations Act.
Okay, motion and support. Any other questions? Okay, all in favor?
This is a roll call
This
vote,
one is?
because it's a resolution.
I always bypass that.
So Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee Marks?
Yes.
Trustee LaRue?
Yes.
Trustee Winslow?
Yes.
Trustee Everson?
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson?
Yeah.
And Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. So as Clerk Rattari was just saying about the fee schedule, now we need to consider approving that. This is fiscal 2022 fee schedule.
And I'll move to accept that.
I'll second it.
Okay, comments?
So I just have one thing. It appears from the comments Lynn made earlier that the recycle material is selling on the market. And so my question to the Solid Waste Authority is, where is that money going? And will we see that money back in each of the communities that participates in this recycle thing? And I think that needs to be clearly stated to them many, many times.
It has been many, many times.
And I think we cannot give up on stating it, because it was never the intent that we fund all their wish list by recycling.
Well, they are doing, if you remember, I mentioned the last meeting, they are working with Delta County, and I think that contract's done now. That's kind of a template to see about bringing outside
Which will
recycling
then
in.
increase their revenue more.
Exactly.
So I think we just have to continue to say to them, it's important to recycle. We all get that. But it's important that if the revenues for the Solid Waste Authority are increasing, that they share those back with the people to provide the point that recycling is valuable for many reasons. So that's my comment.
Or you want to suggest selling it too?
No, my comment is that we continue.
I lost my packet. Yes, go ahead, John.
I think one more point should be made, and that would be that we be, as a township and a member of the association, that we be on guard, that we be aware before any outside outfit is allowed to come in and take advantage of using the facility.
I don't think they're using it, solid waste is collecting it from other municipalities and bunching it in with like our cardboard and our plastic to get a better rate.
The point I want to make is if they're going to make money on importing other waste and making dollars on that, then your point gets to be even more important. So I think we just need to be on guard for that. We're 19 members.
23.
23 with the
19 townships.
city. But I'm just saying that we're not just a cousin in this thing, we're a partner in it, and we paid for much of what's going on there. And so if the temptation is always going to be there to import other people's waste.
It might be a good thing to bring up tomorrow night at the county township dinner, because it'll be kind of a short meeting, but we can talk to Jim about that.
Yes.
Thank you.
But I think, Lynn, what they're looking at, they can sell it, they can hold the costs down, because recycling will become more expensive in the future, the more we do it. And if they can hold the cost down by doing that, that's gonna help us in the long run too.
But they have to have a market for it too, that's the big thing, and for a long time they didn't, because
Right.
once it stopped going to China, then there was nobody in the country that was going to do anything with it. So now, like I said, the fiber and, whatever I said, fiber and plastics
Yeah, plastic.
they're going good now. Everybody's buying them. So then, obviously, we're making money, or they are. But I will point that out. I pretty much get to their meetings every month, and it's in their minutes of the comments that I make. So, where are we now? Sorry, I'm lost.
There's a motion and a second.
Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Consider committee recommendation and openings. This crazy thing. I have one more recommendation. We had done a bunch of them at the last meeting. And this one, excuse me, is for, I just want to get to my sheet. The Board of Review alternate, Greg Places agreed or asked if he could take another 3-year term ending 12/31/24. So I would make a motion to support this reappointment.
Also, I'll support.
Of who?
Of Greg
Greg
Place.
Place for the Board of Review. He's an alternate for a 3-year term. Questions? Comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I did add to that memo the 3 committee openings we have, and I added more information so anyone reading this in the packet will know pretty much. I took the first line of the bylaws and put it in here as an explanation of what the committee does. Rec Committee, Road Committee, and the Zoning Board of Appeals. How long the terms are and when they expire, and when they meet. So I thought that would help.
How many openings are there?
Just one for each,
One
sorry.
for each.
And if there's anybody out there considering or would like more information on the board, they should, call you up and talk. Because
Yep, they can call any one of us here. I make the appointment recommendations to the board, so I can give you a lot of information. Feel free, our numbers are online, or call the office and they can find us. Okay, that's all I needed on that one. Consider letter of agreement for paid time off carryover for the township manager. You want to tell us your rationale?
Sure. I'm not sure what the rationale was when we chose 1 week of carryover when we were negotiating the contract. It was probably simply the expectation that there wouldn't be this huge leave bank that gets unresolved. But the current concern comes in where, as we approach the end of the year, I don't have a sick leave bank like our other employees do. And if I'm burning down my PTO to make sure that I'm following the contract, I only have 1 week to carry over. And let's say I get injured in the second to last week of the year and I only have 1 week of vacation left. Now what do? It just really puts me in a tight spot at the end of the year. I don't want to be in a position, having a young family, of having unpaid leave because of something that happens due to only having a week of, I generally like to have a little bit more of a cushion than that. So if I can carry over 2 weeks, have to use it in the first half of the year, it's off the books. It just gives me a little more security if I get injured or ill for whatever reason.
Oh, plus your PTO, or your, I just read PTO, your short-term disability doesn't kick in right away anyway, so the 2 weeks would help you if you did get injured toward that.
You know, when these kind of things happen, I'm not the type of person to take advantage of an injury. I'm usually chomping at the bit to get back to work. But I don't, just based on the fact that I ride bikes year-round, I know it's possible. I mean, I've dislocated a shoulder. Anything can happen. I just don't want to create an issue if it happens late in the year and I've used up more time than I have to use if I need it in an emergency.
And this has been vetted with the attorney. So,
I move that we accept the letter of understanding and that the supervisor sign.
I'll second that.
okay. Questions for the manager?
It'll be supervisor and clerk.
I just looked at, oh, excuse me, it's clerk, excuse me, Mr. Clerk, I missed your portion of it.
Okay, this doesn't need a roll call, does it?
It does
Because it's
not.
something pertaining to a contract.
does not.
Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Might want to consider a little wide tire bike. I had to get that in there.
3 tires?
Studs?
The rumor in Marquette County is you only need the stud in the saddle.
That's probably
Wow.
Todd saying that.
Wow.
We were going to get a fire department report because he was on vacation and it didn't get on the agenda, so I'm gonna make a note to have him come next time.
He's going to have 2 months' worth of report this time.
Right. I noticed that this afternoon.
By the way, the stud in the saddle thing, that's a West End thing.
Okay. All right. Board updates, Planning Commission, Miss Linda.
The planning commission did not meet, due to a lack of a quorum, and so they will be meeting tomorrow to discuss their agenda items.
I think there's 4 short-term rentals and the sand.
Yeah, something to
Solid
think
waste.
about. Lots of short-term rental requests appear to be coming across our agenda.
I was talking to a gentleman this afternoon that's worrying about the ability to rent or buy a house. Okay, Roads Committee.
We'll have a meeting coming up in January, and we'll have election of officers and get started that way.
Okay. Events, do you want to talk about Christmas and what's coming next?
Well, the event, Christmas went over very well, like you said, and a great line. Everything, Super One did a great job over there, just with hots and brats and snacks and that, so. And the hot chocolate went very well. People are very appreciative of that, so.
Jet's Pizza came on board this year, too.
And there was a long line to go to see Santa. You know, it was very, I left the doctor stand for a minute, and I went down there, and these 2 ladies were standing against a wall, and they're just looking. I said, good turnout, eh? And I said, maybe next year we should have 2 Santas. I couldn't help it.
Good idea.
But it went very well. I mean, everyone seemed to have a good time. A little discussion on the tree out there, but some of the branches and that, but that's fixed. So it'll be good. You know. The next thing we have would be probably the car show coming up.
June, right?
June, yeah.
Father's Day weekend or so? Okay, John?
I just want everyone to know that we've already initiated the process of trying to figure out how to have a permanent tree, so we don't have to go through the process of finding one, cutting it, transporting it, re-erecting it every year. Part of that issue is also finding a spot to plant it, where we have permission to have it and maintain it and light it constantly. So maybe we can get an easement from the mall or something like that, but the process I've initiated is figuring out the largest tree spade that's locally available so that we could transplant the largest tree possible that would hopefully survive. So we're working on that. That would impact our budget for next year, but would ultimately save us long-term if it works. Just the first step in how we analyze how we're doing these events, ways to hopefully cut costs long-term.
John, how long or how high are you, how big of a tree can they put in?
So the ones that we've been gathering have been 30 to 35 feet. The transplanting, 12 feet is the biggest that I've heard so far. So that would be a rather small tree for the first 10, 15 years probably, unless we find a bigger tree spade. We're working on that. We've got some industry folks helping us try to figure out what's available. I do know that Meister's Tree Farm has up to 40-foot trees. It's just a matter of can you transplant one? So, and you know that if it's on their tree farm, it was probably pruned many times, and it's probably a pretty nice-looking tree. I just wouldn't hold out much hope of transplanting a 40-foot tall tree.
Have you checked with Northern? I know that they've got that spade thing.
I know Andy knows some people down there. He was gonna find out whether or not they still have it and what the largest root ball is that they could gather with that.
Still need to get permission too. I mean, that's really the first step, but.
Yeah, well, we wouldn't be transplanting a tree before spring, so we've got a little bit of time. But the way things go around here, that little bit of time becomes no time in a hurry, so we'll stay on it.
But I wouldn't be too, you know, afraid of having a little bit smaller tree for a couple of years, because, you know, you could use that. You could say, you know, somebody make a comment, but just watch us grow. Here's our small tree or something like that, but watch us grow or something like that, you know. Come grow with us, or, you know, there's some catchy terms that you can use that you can take advantage of it, so.
Sure.
And I have to say that the residents that I've spoken to really support having a tree that grows versus a tree we're cutting down. They also support having the event be part of Marquette Township. And so looking at having an event close to here and using our public rooms for things. So, you know, we have a lot of opportunities. We have some parks. So I don't think we have to necessarily look at what we had yesterday. Let's look at what we want for tomorrow. So I'm a big supporter of planting a tree. And there's even a cute little tree right outside this building.
Pretty small.
Well.
It's already
well, I was
growing, though.
Yeah, we were all pretty small once, right?
That's about a 12-foot tree, maybe 15
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
So,
and we could do lots of fun things, Pete, decorate the tree.
I never was
Okay.
small, so I don't know.
Yes, you were.
No, but there
Okay.
is, you know, don't be all hung up on a smaller tree than we have, because, you know, if you stop and think about it, you can really enjoy it and have fun with it. You know, just, like I said, people come in, just say, come grow with us in Marquette Township and stuff like that.
Any public comment?
Real short. I'm Steve Adamini. I represent Precinct 2 on the county board, and I wanted to speak to your comments about the good luck it looks like we're having with the tax tribunal now. The attorney that the county has used throughout this process on the tax tribunal is also representing us on the process we're going through now in Richmond Township, because with the closing of production at the Empire, they're going back on ad valorem taxes. And so there's very sophisticated arguments going on as to what is the value of the mine. And there's some heated arguments on that. But our attorney, who's also represented us on the Dark Star issue, was up meeting with us a couple of weeks ago, and I had conversations with him, and he indicated to me that there's sunshine on the Dark Store issue. He said it seems the momentum now is shifting the other way, as indicated by what you said. And he also gave me some indications of what he thinks is going to happen in the near future. I don't want to quote him publicly here, but you and I discussed this many times in meetings, Lynn, and maybe if you give me a telephone call, I can tell you exactly what he said.
Sure.
Okay?
Great.
We could only hope.
It's partly because everything's pretty much gone to the tribunal already, and there's nothing left, all the
Up
big
here,
box stores.
up here.
Yeah,
It's downstate now.
yeah, well, it's hitting them now, and we said that, let's just wait. And I'm gonna remind you that I have that tape from Northern. It's 24 minutes. If we have a light agenda in the next few meetings, I'll play it for you. It's fabulous. It explains the tribunal process very well. It interviews Randy Gerard,
Dennis?
Dennis Limata, John Kivala, Senator Casperson. There's one more in there, I think. But it's very well done, so I want to share that with you. Mhm. Yes, sir. Come on up.
Hi, my name is Steve Smith. I am a resident of Marquette Township. My address is 570 South Vandenboom Road in Marquette Township. I'm also the president and CEO of the True North Federal Credit Union, and I have two quick items. The first item is if our transaction, if our purchase of land in Marquette Township goes through, True North would be willing to work with the township on any kind of Christmas tree. So keep that in mind. Secondly, just a couple of quick questions. And also, Mike Hainstock, one of our vice presidents from True North, is here too, so Mike might have a couple of follow-up questions.
He's going to say no to the tree, right?
No, Mike will say yes. Yeah. This is in regards to the resolution to vacate the alley. And this question would be specifically for John Kangas and Roger Zappa. John and Roger, if the road commission does abandon this alley, and this comes back to Marquette Township, we need to know, do we have to then get this replatted in order to get that off of the plat? Because, as all of you are aware, True North is trying to buy this property, and if we can seal the deal, we need to have that fully abandoned in order to build on the property. So what would be the process that we would have to go through? Do we have to get it replatted?
Well, we typically don't do a back and forth on public comment, but
Okay.
if you want to answer, go ahead.
Okay. There's nothing in the resolution from Marquette Township that mandates a replatting. That's a question between you and your attorney. Basically, there's a fundamental distinction between vacating and abandoning and replatting. Now, in an ideal world, all plats should reflect reality.
Right.
I could tell you that if you look at the east side of Marquette, the Harlow's Addition and so forth, there are all kinds of half lots and quarter lots that the plats have not amended. I cannot give you legal advice, especially when you're represented, that you
Right.
should not amend the plat, because again, it's important for those plat records to be as accurate as possible when somebody researches them at the Register of Deeds. However, they are two very distinct concepts as far as abandonment and hand-in-hand vacating and plat amendment, and there is nothing in this resolution that Marquette Township has adopted requiring a replat. Now, whether your legal counsel gives advice on that would be recommended, that's between you and your attorney, but there's nothing mandating that from Marquette Township.
Okay. That sounds good. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Yes, thanks for coming. Nice meeting you, too.
So I'll try to be quick. I appreciate your time. We had an arrangement with our attorney, with the current owners of the property, whereby the resolution that was originally drafted to come before this board would have allowed us to title insure over the existing easement, which would have allowed us to begin construction. We've been a year at looking at property, this specific property, not your issue, I understand that, but we're kind of running out of time. So we had an agreement set up with the original draft of that resolution that was not contingent on the county road commission. And I understand why you brought them into the mix, and I think that makes sense. My point to you is, if there is a way, we're quite willing to go through the legal process if it takes us going to circuit court to get replatted or whatever. However, the only way we can build, and the only way we can do that, is if there's some way to get that resolution done prior to a replat, if the county requires a replat. I don't know if that's possible or not. I'm just bringing it up so everybody's aware of the same thing. I have a lot of fear this deal is going to die on the 20th of December at the Marquette County Road Commission meeting when they say you have to replat the property. I understand that's not your issue, but I am letting you know that very much jeopardizes this purchase. And if there's a way around it that we can all agree on, that might be nice.
Roger, is that something for their attorney too, then?
It is, and again, title insurance is something separate and distinct from abandonment or replatting.
I understand.
And what the title insurer requires versus what the road commission requires might be worlds apart, and I have no control over that.
Understood.
From a timing standpoint, again, our resolution that we've adopted to just vacate it contingent on what the road commission does has no platting requirement in our resolution. And from a timing perspective, again, that's between you and your attorney to some degree.
Sure.
But if I guess it would depend on the wording of any resolution by the road commission.
Absolutely.
On how they, as far as that they agree to abandonment, and the replatting can occur later. I mean, that's well beyond the scope of any advice I can give you
Understood.
here today.
The addition of the contingency on the Marquette County Road Commission's decision is what has brought me here. That's what threw the monkey wrench into what our plans were. Not an issue for you guys. I get it. I get why you did what you did, totally. I'm just trying to see if there's some way to smooth this out and make things work. If not, we may have to do something different completely, and that's not your issue either. I understand that.
Vacating it once the road commission is involved doesn't accomplish much for you if the road commission does not agree to also abandon. We've tried to be as accommodating as we possibly can, and I've been in, I don't want to say continuous, but in ample discussions with your attorney on looking at the angles of this. And as I reiterated, you'll find no replatting language in this resolution.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming. Any announcements anybody wants to share? Okay, managers report. John?
If you bear with me for a second, Trustee LaRue is writing me notes over here.
You might have to stay after school for that kind of nonsense.
Another busy 2 weeks since we last met, or 3 weeks, right?
3 weeks.
And we had a holiday in there. But the budget and CIP process are behind us for now. The CIP items individually will be brought to you one at a time as we're ready for you to visit them and authorize moving forward with the next step, whether it's approving a award of a bid or whatever. So you'll see those. Union contracts unfortunately didn't go quite as far as we had hoped. We thought we would be bringing you two tentative agreements to consider this evening. We think we have one. The other one we're just not ready to discuss yet, so we have a response, but we need some clarification from our labor council on it. So events, we've already discussed that, and just for the record, this is the second year Jets Pizza has provided the candy for the tree lighting ceremony, so that's awesome that they've done that. And then, of course, Superior Dance Arts, I think, was the biggest change this year over prior years. They are now in the mall, and they danced to a couple of the songs, and I think that really brought a big crowd out with the parents and grandparents. And the water system expansion discussion for Oak Hills, Lenny has, I know those folks are anxiously awaiting. Lenny does have a opinion of probable cost. I will say right now, it's probably a very conservative opinion, but we will be some point in the near future, I don't know if it'll happen before the holidays or not, try to meet with all of those folks to explain where we're at on it. I think he did share that information with all of you sometime earlier this week or late last week. I think the biggest thing for everyone to be aware of is this infrastructure is getting very expensive. So with that, that's my report, and I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Anything for the manager? He did mention too that our talk with the city seemed to go well. They're gonna do some research and probably call us back, I'm guessing.
Yeah, and it does sound like they're interested in getting a feasibility study going to figure out, you know, what the limits of percentage of ownership would be, that kind of thing.
Anything? Follow up? No? Okay. So if you would read the motions for us?
Okay, review of the motions. The first motion was to approve the consent agenda as presented. That was approved. The second motion was to approve the regular agenda, and that was approved as presented. The third motion was to approve the vacation of the southern half of Ryan's Alley in Trowbridge Park, number 8 Platte. That was approved by roll call vote. Number 4 motion was to approve the fiscal year 2022 budget. That was approved. Fifth motion was to approve the fiscal year 2021 tax levies, and that was approved. Sixth motion was to approve the fiscal year 2022 budget resolution and Township General Appropriations Act, and that was approved by roll call vote. Number 7 motion was to approve the fiscal year 2022 fee schedule, and that was approved. Eighth motion was to approve Greg Place on the Board of Review as an alternate for a 3-year term, ending 12/31/24, and that was approved. And the ninth motion was to approve the letter of agreement for the township manager to carry over 80 hours of PTO time per year, and that was approved.
Okay, thank you for that. So future agenda for right now, that'll be that assessment taxation explanation I'm gonna give you. I'm sure something else will come up. This has been a big one. We'll probably have some budget resolutions. Any board member comment? Anybody wants to share?
I have a couple things.
Sure, Linda.
So, I was asked by someone in our community if our police car was in an accident the last couple weeks. And if so, who's responsible for paying for those repairs on that car? The other question I have is, are we still keeping open the area where people would bring their glass monthly? And if so, is that really cost effective to keep that open during the winter months for the amount of glass we collect? The other thing is, I was at the Christmas event as well, and I'd like to take a look and discuss the money that we spend on the events per year, because I have no idea. And I think that all the marketing went to Marquette County, not specifically to Marquette Township residents. And are the events put on for Marquette County, or are the events put on for Marquette Township residents? So I think we have a couple things to discuss. The other thing, and I think my friend Pete is gonna talk about our coffee conversation and cards event that we held the other day for seniors, and the discussion that ensued from the seniors who were there about what they'd like to see in the coming year. So, you don't have to answer any of those questions.
No, John can.
First, regarding the sheriff's vehicle, I was unaware of that until I walked in here tonight. And just so everyone knows, must be the vehicle that we just purchased for them. If it was damaged in an accident, their insurance company is responsible for covering the repairs, less any deductibles the sheriff's department has. So we're not on the hook for it. Being new information to me, I haven't had any opportunities to talk to them, but you may recall this squad car was supposed to be an SUV, but because of the transition from Randy to I a year ago, we didn't communicate that plan change to go to an SUV. This may be an opportunity, if that car is totaled, to get one anyway. That would just mean we'd have to pony up a little bit more of the money that we had originally budgeted for it. It doesn't impact what you had originally planned to spend. It does impact what's in the reserves, because there was that portion of earmarked funds that was never spent when they bought the car instead of the. So I'll try to remember to reach out to them first thing tomorrow and see what's going on with it, if they even know yet, and determine that. What was the second one?
The second one was about collecting glass during the winter months, and was that?
I see Lenny's gone now, but if I remember the conversation correctly, we have one dumpster in our contract that we're paying for no matter what. So I think what they decided is on that first Wednesday, they're gonna have that available for glass for customers in the winter months, even though we're not open for refuse collection, because we're paying for the dumpster anyway.
Are we gonna staff that?
I don't believe so,
Okay, so
not just for glass.
I would hope not.
Right. The whole idea is we're trying to cut some costs during the months when it makes the most sense.
Okay.
So,
The third question was regarding the event cost and to see a budget and to know where we're spending and why.
yeah, so
John and I've already.
this isn't a new conversation. I've barely been in this position, well, just over a year. And we had this conversation actually earlier this year when I was uncomfortable with the way things were going. And that's when, you may remember, former manager Gerard and Todd Nordike came and presented their plan for the year. And I say there because arguably I'm a member of the committee. I think there's some issues with that. It puts me in a tough spot at times. And I'm going to recommend that I not be a member of the committee. I just be a resource when they need information. No matter what, I think we need to repeat that process this year. So whatever the plan ends up being, the board is fully aware, and any expenditures associated with that get approved here so that I know what I'm authorized to spend on those events based on what you've agreed to. Because the way it went this year did not leave me in a comfortable position. I just don't like it.
It was already in place, so.
Yeah, but
We did approve their budget when they came, but.
there were a lot of changes made throughout the year that never came back to you,
that we
and
didn't know about, yeah. So the bill was-
I don't want those changes left on my shoulders to take care of. I can't have them assuming I'm just gonna handle that, because that puts me in a bad spot with you. And when those of you that are sitting here are the ones deciding my future, I don't like that. It just does not make me comfortable. And I think Pete's heard me say some of my concerns about this at the last meeting. We just need to be a little bit more open about how this stuff is happening, and if there's changes, those changes, I think, should be approved before they ever happen, not when the invoice comes in.
Well, and when John suggests that he not be a specific member, I would like to suggest that we have bylaws. It's our only committee, that doesn't have any structure. There's no appointments. These people just kind of show up. So that's gonna come to you sometime next year for discussion, to see what you think about it. So this gives you a heads up.
There's some other things we need to do to limit the township's liability, too. Attorney Zappa and I have talked about some specific things that he had said earlier this year should not happen, and I think they did anyway. So, there's just, I can't be the one sitting at these meetings, hearing it happen, and everyone assuming that I'm coming back to you and, or just rubber stamping it. It's just not, I don't like to do business that way.
So I have lots of questions about that whole thing, you know.
Yeah, we'll
so-
talk about it then.
Yeah,
We
so,
need to figure out how we
yeah,
want it
before
structured.
any more money is spent.
Yeah, the good news is
Good for this year.
the next event isn't until Father's Day, so
Well.
we have
yeah,
time.
Yeah, and maybe it's time to, look at what kind of events we want to hold in our township. I think, and get some, young people involved. That's really who these are for.
We've pitched events pretty
Yeah,
much.
but nobody wants to spend that much time going to meetings that's young.
Well, but that's why I've said repeatedly, pick up an event. You don't have to be on the events committee and have to do all
Right.
4 or 5 or
Right,
6.
and,
whatever
and
you
I've
want.
called that for a long time, and I've said this at this board, those are called short-term commitments.
Sure.
And you just have a, quote, team leader for the event, and then you have a short-term commitment group.
Yeah,
And
so they
maybe,
meet for a couple
maybe
months.
there isn't even a need for a committee as we all view committee. Maybe there is some other framework we can build this in. So just some
We
ideas.
have to research, but I think part
well,
of
I
the,
think
part
we
of the
can do
problem
that.
is there's not enough structure with that right now,
Well,
which is,
right, and so what does committee mean? So, yeah, so thank you for hearing me about that. I do have some ideas,
okay.
so.
And the other thing with
Got one.
glass that I did,
What?
Linda, the other thing with glass that when I did the tour is they have, I think I told you this, a huge, the thing is probably the size of this room, and I bet you just this little part over here is full. They're not collecting a lot of glass from anybody.
Correct.
Enough to make money on it. So if everybody takes the effort, or makes the effort, to get it up there, and they can get it in there, that helps their revenue too.
But we do have to look at, Lynn, how much glass is there that is available to be collected? When I looked at my recycling, I have 4 pieces of glass in a 4-month period. So the products you're purchasing are not coming in glass anymore. It's cheaper for plastic.
It's the wine bottles they say that they typically get. even
Not
whiskey.
all of us participate in the
Not
wine
just
bottles.
whiskey even, it's the wine. There's lots of wine that's
Yeah.
getting thrown into the landfill.
Yeah, but you know, that's probably your restaurants.
Possibly.
It'd be interesting how much glass our township, you know, it might be better to put a garbage can out in
Well,
front,
we talked about that,
you know.
and all the
I-
problems
That'd be
that-
a nightmare, but I
yes,
mean,
because
Well,
unless you
it-
want to sit out there, bring your sleeping bag.
yeah.
Well,
Watch.
we'll look at what other communities are doing. You know, we all learn from other communities, and they are doing best practice and lots of other things that we have terms for. So anyways, just some things to think about.
Okay, sounds good.
Well, they do have one time a month, in the winter months, we have one dumpster for glass, correct, John? Yeah.
Yeah.
So they do have an opportunity to drop it off in the winter when they need to.
So
Not a
we'll-
big deal.
Yeah, so we'll be able to track that. We'll know how much glass actually goes into that dumpster every month, correct?
I don't know if,
We will.
they know it by township, John?
Well, sure, because we're the only township going there to do that on that day.
So, we pay for the rental of the dumpster, the transport to the landfill, and it goes across the scale, so we'll know the tonnage.
And they take it across every month? Or when
Correct.
it's full?
I think they empty it the
Every
day
month.
after our first Wednesday, so the first Thursday.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that, okay. Dan?
Excuse me, but I thought wine only came in boxes. Sorry.
Next subject, please.
Oh, boy.
Anything else on that? Okay, then we can go into closed session. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to go into closed session pursuant to MCL 15.268 subsection B for strategy and negotiation sessions connected with negotiation of a collective bargaining agreement if either negotiating party requests a closed hearing.
Okay,
And
we
I
have a
think-
second
and I
with
think-
Dan.
Yeah, I think Dan gave a second down there.
Okay, all in favor?
Oh, roll call.
Oh, I did, yeah. Haven't done that in a long time.
Okay, roll call vote is Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee Everson?
Yes.
Trustee LaRue?
Yes.
Trustee Winslow?
Yes.
Trustee Marks?
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson?
Yes.
And Supervisor Durant?
Yes,
We're in closed session at 7:51 PM.
okay.